So, for this review, like all of my Game of Thrones reviews, there will be huge spoilers, so watch out for that. What I liked most about this episode was that we saw two characters who were normally unflappable and in control get very flustered. Sansa managed to really get under Littlefinger's skin about convincing her to marry Ramsay. He seemed like he was really at a loss for words for a bit. Varys is usually in even more control than Peter Baelish is, and he really looked flummoxed when the priestess started talking about when Varys had his Franks and beans removed. When Varys started giving an attitude to the priestess, I wondered what the fuck he was doing. Varys doesn't usually do anything unless there's a point to it. I thought he was using some kind of manipulation tactic, but I guess he was just fucking with her because he doesn't like the followers of R'hllor. I used to think that Varys didn't have a weakness like Tyrion or Littlefinger, but I guess his weak point is his resentment of members of this religious order. Also, it seems that Tyrion is using the Republican tactic of pandering to the religious in order to get their support. And speaking of Franks and beans, did we really have to see a close-up shot of fake Joffrey's nutsack? The Bran bits in this episode revealed far more than I expected them to. Who knew that the Children of the Forest created the White Walkers? I wasn't expecting any explanation for the White Walkers at all. I just assumed they were just something indigenous to the north, like mammoths. Apparently the way you create a White Walker is by stabbing somebody in the sternum with a piece of dragon glass, which is odd because the way you destroy White Walkers is by stabbing them with dragon glass. Also, I noticed in this episode that the Children of the Forest have 5 fingers on each hand, even though in the books they have 4 fingers. Little detail differences like that annoy me. I gotta be frank about the fact that I found the explanation for why Hodor says Hodor to be a little silly. I don't know why, but it seemed like an explanation you'd read in a fan fiction. I also thought it was a little weird that when Euron was being baptized or whatever, Theon and Yara were able to sneak what looked like a whole fleet of ships away. And I thought it was weird that Euron's response was to tell everyone to start building more ships. Wouldn't that take years? For once, it seems like Jorah Mormont's obsession with Daenerys is paying off. She's forgiven him for being a spy, and she's ordered him to find a cure to grayscale. In the books, Jorah doesn't have grayscale, Jon Connington does. Perhaps the reason Jon Connington hasn't been on the show is because he eventually dies or becomes a stone man, making his involvement with Daenerys pretty short-lived and narratively unimportant. So I suspect that because Jorah doesn't get grayscale in the books, he's probably going to end up finding a cure.